Well, welcome. I'm Amber Broadaway, the president here at Solitude Mountain Resort. And I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary in the job. Thank you. Yeah. So far, we haven't gotten voted off the mountain yet. Well, maybe we need to rethink that at the end of tonight. But I'm joined here today by up front with me is the members of my senior leadership team. And these are the folks who really do the heavy lift. They've been here a long time and really help keep me in the rails and keep me honest. So I'd like to introduce Steve Holtai is our director of finance. Steve has been at Solitude for more than 20 years. And he's got the 10-pound brain. So he's got all the stats and info up here. So as you all pepper me tonight with wanting to know specifics, Steve will be one of my go-tos. Jeff Carroll is our director of sales and marketing. He's been here for 4 or 5 years, came here from Montana. He is also a data whiz and does a lot of the data mining on our pass holders and our guest service. Kind of keeping us honest as the Solitude guest and community changes, which it has changed and it continues to change even from last year to this year. Next is Marlon Stewart. She is our director of lodging and village operations. So she runs the inn, our rental management pool, and all the condos, Club Solitude, and a lot of the village programming. So Marlon's been with us for about 3 years and was at Snowbird before that. Next, we have Jerry Nooney. He's our director of food and beverage. So he may or may not have the bullseye on tonight. We'll see. Jerry's been with us not quite a year. He joined us last fall. He has been in food and beverage as a chef, as a restaurant owner for a long time. And he was with me at Sugarbush in Vermont for, well, he was there a lot longer than me. And then he made it out here. Next, we have Hank Malcolm, who is our director of human resources. He just also celebrated his 1-year anniversary, originally from Idaho, but worked all over the United States, did a lot of work in manufacturing, and is now with us and has been a really great addition to the team. A lot of you know Nate Lee. Nate Lee is our director of mountain operations. And actually here at Solitude, he oversees quite a lot of our base area operations as well. Parking and roads and shuttles. Nate has also been at the resort for more than 25 years and worked his way up from a lift operations, lifty, as we call him, all the way to this role. And Nate is also another incredible source of knowledge on the history and the bones and all of the unique things here at Solitude, where the bodies are buried. And then last is Dan Healy. He is our director of mountain sports and activities, also known to oversee snow sports, ski and ride, the Nordic Center. Dan he's here in his first year. He's been in the industry a really long time. The most recent, he came to us from Sierra Tahoe, which was the resort that was severely damaged in the wildfire and didn't open last year. But Dan also comes for a lot of years in the business, having worked at Crested Butte and Breckenridge, Beaver Creek. I always get the B's wrong in Colorado. So also a great addition. So this is the dream team here that makes the beauty or makes the frustration happen here at Solitude, depending on your perspective. And we're here to go through a presentation. And as as questions or comments come up, I'll be utilizing this group of people to help chime in. And then at the end, if you don't feel comfortable asking a question in person or you don't feel comfortable asking one online, you certainly have the ability to come talk to any of the members of the team. So welcome. This is a community town hall. And where I come from, my resort president used to do this every year in the fall at the annual Homeowners Association, which we called Community Day. And what we found is that it was a really great opportunity to share, that was primarily with the second homeowners, just information on how the season went, what we were up to, how are we spending capital, what are the projects. And we found it to be a really important tool to communicate between the resort and our community members. And I wanted to bring that here to Solitude. And I don't know that this is the right time of year to do it. I don't know that it's the wrong time. Our homeowner weekend is typically in August. The first week of August is when Solitude has its annual homeowner. But I really like the idea of doing the season, particularly the winter season recap now, closer to our memory of what we just went through. And because typically the winter season recap is the most important. The winter season is the bread and butter of our business. The other reason I like this time of year is I think it's a good time to talk about what we're doing. So most resort projects, capital projects, are really in the off season, right? So when there's no snow. So this is a good time to just talk about not only summer enhancements, but also to talk with you about what are we doing for maintenance in the summer, just normal, regular maintenance, and what are we doing for unique projects. So no, let me do this. Okay, now it's not working again. Oh, I got it. Okay, so that's the agenda. We're going to go through the winter season recap, the good, the bad, the ugly, what worked, what didn't work, and then what we're putting in place to address some of the things that didn't work. We're going to talk to you about our staff and employees and what we're doing there. They're our most important resource. And we've done a lot of investment and caretaking of them, and we have more work to do. But a lot of guests, have some misunderstandings and misperceptions about how we caretake our employees. So I think this is a good forum to talk about it. We're going to talk to you about what we're doing this summer. Some of the work is started and some of it's about to kick off, as well as some of the enhancements we're planning to bring online in June. And then I'm going to talk to you about our 5-year plan or our vision to build. And I think a lot of people here, particularly second homeowners, employees, town of Brighton residents, and our longtime loyal customers kind of want to know, like, where to, Solitude? What's the deal? Where are you headed? How are you going to navigate X, Y, and Z? And so I wanted to share with you kind of what we're thinking in that regard. Okay, so can we just do a quick check online? Can people hear me okay? Anybody online want to just give a thumbs up or a comment?
You're all good, Amber.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, so winter season recap. So can everybody see the slide okay? Okay, so what worked? We were open for 160 days. That was Solitude's record longest season since they were initiated in 1957. We now have lift service in every month of the year. So every month of the year, our lifts are spinning, not necessarily every whole month, but in every month. We made it to May 1, and that was the last month that we needed to grab. November to May. So getting open this year was a challenge. We had a great, in October, I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like this is unbelievable. And then November hit and somebody turned off the spigot. So we had to open in November under criteria and conditions that were atypical. In the past, under the ownership of Deer Valley, there was an expectation, really a directive of you had to have X number of lifts and X number of trails, and it had to have wall-to-wall coverage. Many of you know I come from the East, and what I just described is absolutely does not occur. That is not what you have in order to get open. I think it's more than likely what we're seeing with climate shift and snowfall here in the West, that we're going to start getting more East-like than we have in the past. So we got open, and the team worked really hard under very variable conditions. So one of the biggest challenges with making snow is something called wet bulb. So if you haven't heard that, it matters. The humidity in the air matters more than the temperature. And when there's a lot of humidity in the air, it makes it very difficult to make snow. But we were able to do it. We got open. We were a little late. We were hoping to get open about 5 days earlier. But we got open before Thanksgiving, and it was different. We got open with 3 lifts, right? And we didn't have wall to wall. But the product that we put out, I was really proud of. It was great snow. It was great skiing. And I think that we did a pretty good job. We know we have more work to do. You're going to hear me talk about snowmaking. One of the things I think that people don't understand when they give us feedback on our snowmaking is that the way we make snow here is very challenging. And Nate's going to talk to that a little bit later. But the biggest thing I learned here in the West we talked about culverts, and my team was like, I'm like, let's get open. We're going to make snow, but we can always go back and make more. And they were like, no, we can't do that. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Because of the culverts. And I was like, that's funny. I don't remember skiing over what I call a lot of water bars. In the East, culverts are horizontal. In the West, they are vertical. So they go straight up and down, and some of them are in the middle of our trails. So once you make snow and you build it up and you push it over, it's like a whole thing to go back to dig out those culverts to rehook up the guns to make snow. Now we can solve for this, and other resorts have, but that's something that's pretty hot on my mind. The other thing is staying open till May. There were a couple things that really helped us do that. The cold, dry temperatures in January and February were clutch. I mean, just clutch. If we didn't have that extent, because we didn't get a lot of snow, but it preserved it really well. We did get kind of whacked by that early March week where it was like 70 degrees. That really set us back. And March was probably the first month where I would describe us as having really variable conditions. I understand that Utahns have different standards for conditions than a Vermonter. And you told me that a lot, very regularly. And maybe in 5 or 10 years, maybe my standards will start creeping up to yours. But for right now, my standards are on the floor. And East Coast conditions means rocks, roots, grass, mud, you name it. So March was kind of the first month that we saw that. But then we were really blessed in April. And who knew, like April's like a phenomenal time to ski and ride. So we were really pleased that we were able to make it to May 1. We had 390 inches of snow, which in my head is a dream. But for Solitude, it was below average. And the big concern there is obviously water. Water that we need to make sure that the residents in the valley have culinary water throughout the year. So that was, that's sort of less than ideal. We changed some lift hours. So we had 8 a.m. lifts. We started those right around Christmas. The days that we ran 8 a.m. lifts, we saw a 20% increase in our skier visits. That's a huge, when you think about all the different levers for the resort, that was a big lever. The other thing with the 8 a.m. lifts is we heard really nice feedback from UDOT and from the town of Brighton on what they believe was a improvement in canyon congestion on the weekends. By starting 8, Brighton opens at 9. It did sort of help alleviate some of that mad rush. Some of you may have had different experiences, but that's the feedback that we operated on. We worked into some 5 p.m. lifts after we sprung forward with daylight savings. And that didn't quite turn out the same amount of a increase in skier visits, but it was really, our longtime loyalists loved it. It was really nice to be able to get up here a little later and ski while the sunlight is well into, the 6, 7, 8 o'clock time period. So some mountain stats. I think it's good for you to know kind of where we're at. We used about 29 million gallons of water last year to make snow. And for some perspective, the resort I came from in the East that doesn't have water challenges used about 250 million gallons of snow. So 29 million gallons of water may sound like a lot, but it's actually one of the smallest. We'll have the smallest amount of water usage and the least amount of water that we can pump per minute in the whole Alterra family. So we are actually at the bottom on that. For snowmaking, we put out snowmaking on 72 out of the 80 acres that we have snowmaking on. Nate's going to talk a little bit about where we want to grow that, because we do need to grow that. We need more snowmaking acreage. We groom about 225 acres, and this is one that actually is super impressive. Grooming natural snow is actually quite difficult. The snow crystals are different. The viability of the snow, it churns and crumbles much quicker. Human-made snow is much easier to caretake than natural snow. So you see we have blue snow on 72 acres, but we groom 3 times as much as that. And that's pretty awesome. Our lifts, this is a huge one. Our lifts were only down for a total of 125 minutes. That's just over 2 hours. That is unheard of. Fortunately, we don't have some of that wonky weather, and we don't tend to get the rime ice here that they do get at other resorts, but that's phenomenal. And that's a testament to our amazing lift maintenance team. On mountain safety is something, and I should qualify, we got about 12 questions ahead of time from people, and I'm addressing those in my presentation. On mountain safety is one that ironically comes up a bit. People think that we have a huge uptick in skier accidents and injuries. So I'm a risk manager by education and background. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna share some info with you so we can talk stats and facts. So what we do is the National Ski Areas Association actually tracks what the average injury rate is for the whole industry. And what they do is they look at your total skier visits and your total injuries per season, and you get a rate per 1,000 skiers. The national average is 2.22 injuries for every 1,000 skier visits you have. So this is easy math. I just took the last 5 years and ran the numbers. I took my skier visits, I took the data on injuries from my patrol team, and here you can see the red line is the national average. In all but one of those years, Solitude is below that, including this past year. And I really want to emphasize that because we get a lot of feedback on what our long-timers say is an increase in on-mountains injuries and accidents. And the reality is the truth isn't there to support it. Now, one of the things you might ask is, well, what kinds of injuries? That number doesn't tell you severity, so it doesn't tell you fatalities or life-altering injuries, and I don't intend to share that data. And it also doesn't tell you the type. So what are we doing to address that? We're putting in an electronic incident reporting system this year that will be able to categorize injuries by collisions with natural objects, collisions with man-made objects, human-to-human collisions, slip and falls. We're going to be able to track all this so we can take our injury data and further slice and dice it. What I do know is that Marvin Sumner, our longtime mountain manager of like 30 years, I said, hey, Marvin, what are you seeing in collisions? Because that's the feedback I'm getting, is that it's becoming unsafe on our trails. Marvin, after 30 years, feels as though human-to-human collisions account for about 2 to 3% of our total injuries. And he has not seen any significant uptick in those over the course of his tenure here. Okay, so what didn't work? Well, we have some known snowmaking and grooming problem areas, okay? And many of you know them. The top of Apex is probably issue number 1. If you had to ski Summit Access West at different times to get to Summit, if you tried to ski ABBAs to go around, and if you had to ski Fleet Street, which I think is our biggest problem area on the mountain, you will know it was challenging at times. Now, we do not have snowmaking that goes around ABBAs. It doesn't exist. We do have snowmaking on Summit Access West and on Fleet Street, but what we also have is one of the worst wind scouring locations on the mountain right there. That is the one lift that tends to get a little more affected by wind holds. So what are we going to do next year? We're going to make more snow there because we know we need to. We have technology in our groomers to tell us depth. They're depth finders. We're going to do a better job at harvesting snow. We're going to put piles on the mountain where we need them, and then we're going to go get them and move them throughout the season. Nate told me he's going to take care of it. The third thing we're going to do is wind fencing. We need wind fencing up there. This was a thing I think we had in place. Resorts used it. They got away from it. It has a really important role in particular locations where wind is such an issue, as well as lack of snowmaking. We had challenges with opening signature terrain, as well as communicating gate status. We are out of the 4 canyons, we have currently 0 remote activated control systems, so charges for avalanche. We have 0. Every other resort has some level of multiple towers. All of the work that we do on Evergreen Peak and Fantasy Ridge is done by hand. That is all hand charge managed. That means those individuals are packing their packs, really heavy backpacks, and they're going up to do those routes every time it needs work. That's not sustainable, and it's going to leave us behind. So we know we've got to change that. The other thing is, I do agree, as a local enthusiast and how close the valley is to the resort, I'd want to know when Honeycomb Gate opens. I want to know. I don't want to find out through social posts that you put on marketing that, hey, look at my fresh trash. So what are we going to do? Jeff Carroll is going to hire a snow reporter. That's an actual thing that a lot of resorts use. Every day, an employee is going to be paid to manage the current status of our lifts opening and closing, the current status of our gates. They're going to post narratives on our website, and then they're going to put updates out there as things change. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to put some cameras. We can take our cameras and put them in more strategic locations. I want one on the Honeycomb Gate. I think that when our app launches next year, our Solitude app, you're on your phone, you're hitting refresh throughout the day, and you want to know when the rope drops, you should see that. That's our most signature area. So those are some things that we're going to put in place. I want to commit to you, and you'll see snowmaking is a resort priority. It's probably number one. It's probably the resort priority number one. And we'll talk to you a bit more about what we're doing. We are going to put in a Bison tower. So that is a remote activated avalanche tower. They have many of them in Little Cottonwood. We're going to put it up off of Fantasy Ridge in the Boundary Chute area, which is a very challenging area for our team to get to. And we've had some slides. We've actually had some employees slide in that area. That's going in the summer. We're going to see how it goes. And then based on how the team likes it, we're going to fund more of those for that terrain in the future. But just so you know, those are about $300,000 a pop. So they're not cheap. We're going to add 8 a.m. lifts daily next year. So that worked for us. We like it. You like it. Utahns get up early. So starting about Christmas through mid-March, we're going to run Eagle Lift on Monday through Thursdays at 8 a.m. It's the locals lift. You love it. Monday through Thursdays, 8 a.m. from Christmas to mid-March. Conditions depending, 8 a.m. Eagle will spin. Friday through Sunday, we need to cater to our base areas. So that will be the Apex, Moonbeam, and Link lifts starting at 8 a.m. Friday through Sundays. We did get some questions on the 5 p.m. lifts. We plan to mirror a similar process next year. Those will kick off once daylight savings in mid-March. And we'll figure out, those will probably be the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And next year, we are going to build a terrain park. That is coming. So off of Sunrise and off of the Main Street flats, we have individuals already on staff. We have to go beg, borrow, and steal the parts because we don't have the funding, but we're going to go get them from our sister resorts who are excited to give them to us. So you're going to see terrain parks. We are not looking to compete with our friends at Brighton. We don't need big jumps. We're never going to have the terrain parks that Brighton has. And quite honestly, we don't need them. But what we do need is some fun. Kids love this. My daughter is 5. She loves terrain parks. We need this. Our guests want it, and we're missing out by not having it. Okay, moving on to the base area. What worked? Our bus usage was up 54% year over year. So that was great. We were really excited to see that. Our free overnight gear check that was run on the first floor of Snow Sports took off gangbusters. It took a little while to get going, but once it got going, that place was packed. So that's where you can keep your skis, your poles, or your snowboard for free. And that allows you to carpool and ride the bus. And we're going to keep that going, and we're going to see if we can expand the space. A lot of people ask us how we use paid parking. We do generate revenue from paid parking. However, that is all plugged right back into all of our expenses for how we handle transportation and parking. We spent half of the money that we generated off of paid parking on UTA bus fees. You know, we pay for all Solitude and Icon pass holders to have free bus access. That is expensive. We use the remaining half to pay for our parking team, to pay for employee shuttle vans, which we doubled in size to 4. We have to pay UTA for those vans, and the remaining for our intra-resort shuttle. So when that's all tallied up, the bulk of the money that we make from paid parking goes right back. It is not something where we're lining our pockets. And that is something I do hear regularly from guests. they feel that we're fleecing them. We started a new on-resort shuttle route. As you know, it used to go out on the Canyon Road. This year, it went the back way from the Moonbeam area to Eagle, back to the village. It worked really well for a period of time until it didn't work well. And I think the term was Amber's mud pit, which, you know, I guess you got to own certain things, right? We need to fix some things there, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The nice thing about that shuttle was we moved so many people back and forth so much quicker than we did over years past. And we also heard really nice feedback from our town and UDOT on how that was helpful to keep those vehicles off the main road. We utilized the UTA bus for Nordic access. In the past, we had designated its own shuttle, and that thing would get eaten up on the Brighton traffic, and we wouldn't see it for hours. So we eliminated it, and we asked our guests here at the village to just take the bus, which goes every 15 minutes. That worked out terrific. And we created a guest services department, you know, we're going to be expanding that. We knew that there were some areas lost and found, answering questions, helping with some of our COVID protocols, doing the gear check. Next year, we're launching a mountain host program. It will be a volunteer program where we're looking for individuals who love Solitude and want to join our team to do things like meet and greet, answer questions, conduct free meet the mountain tours, and really help us create a much better employee experience, guest experience. So what didn't work? Not everyone liked the new shuttle, and quite honestly, we had some problems. It needs to be paved, and it had some really challenging drainage. And so we are working on that. We really appreciate some of our local residents who tolerated what were some very difficult couple of weeks with runoff. So that's in the works for this summer. We know some long timers, particularly second homeowners in the village, don't like the fact, they don't like the look of it, and they don't like the fact that it feels like the village is no longer ski in, ski out. But the majority of the feedback and what we saw from what it actually did operationally far outweighs those negatives. Paid parking is our #1 guest complaint. People just, outside of hating Icon, people hate paid parking. And the reality is we're not giving it up. There's no going back. There's no rolling that back, because I'll share with you some data. It's doing what we need it to do. It is driving the incentives, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So transportation and parking solutions after snowmaking is a resort priority. I would say the two of them kind of mirror each other, but right now I do put snowmaking a little bit ahead. But that becomes resort priority #2. We know we have to help be part of the solution for solving for canyon congestion, and the fact that we also have the least amount of parking in the Altera Mountain Company family. We had about 1,200 spots, which is really an overstatement. We are working with the Brighton Resort and the town of Brighton. Right now with the Brighton Resort, we're trying to work with UTA to find a dedicated employee route, not routes, what is it? Buses, yes. So we're trying to find the location in the valley where Solitude and Brighton Resorts park, and those buses are just for our employees. We're trying to figure out the feasibility and what the costs are. The other part of that is, you know, we know that we need to fix our transit center. And by transit center, we mean our bus stop that's in the middle of our parking lot. That doesn't work very well for keeping the buses on schedule in the winter. So we would like to work with our key stakeholders to move that to the road where we think it better belongs. And the other thing that we're focusing on for next year is midweek. There's certain things I can give back to you, but weekends and holidays, if you don't like to ski with other people, I can't give it back. I can't give it back. And if I gave it back to you, we would go out of business. But what I can give back to you is midweek. So Monday through Thursday, non-holidays, we have a $399 midweek pass. It is the most affordable pass right now in Utah. Partnering with that will be a $99 midweek parking pass. Same, Monday through Thursday, non-holiday. So for those of you that are local residents, for those of you who are retirees, for those of you that have flex work from home schedules, or for those of you that homeschool, this is a great option for you if you don't want to battle the crowds and the traffic on the weekends. Okay, lodging and retail. Well, what worked? We have the second highest NPS, which is called a Net Promoter Score rating within the company. So that means our lodging guests, in terms of when they go back and recommend us to their friends and family, the only resort in Altera that beat us was Deer Valley. That is it. We beat Steamboat. We beat everybody else. That is huge. And that's a huge testament to Marlon and her team. I think that the lodging team here, for the challenges we have, does, especially if you've never been a guest at the inn, just think of it. How you have to pull in, how you have to like park your car to get in the side by side, to get your luggage into the resort. It's a challenge. Once you get into the inn, it's impeccable. It's a little bit dated, but we have a great team in there. We had some awesome early season packages. This is another thing we feel committed to, is giving to the people who are here, to your friends and family. You know, early December, late April, this is a great time to come and stay and ski and ride with us. So we gave some incredible discounts on lodging packages. We started a Utah specific lodging package in the month of April. And it was a learn to ski and ride package that was all inclusive. And it was a night at the inn, it was your ticket, it was rentals, and it was a beginner group lesson. And it was $99 a head. Yep, based on double occupancy. Yeah, right? Go out somewhere and find that. You won't find it anywhere. We're really proud of that, and we really want to see that program grow. I will tell you that November, early December, and April are some of the best months to learn to ski. Why do I think that? Number one, there's often not a lot of snow in the base area. Walking in ski boots is hard. Number two, it's usually a little warmer. And number three, there aren't as many people in those times of the season. So I highly recommend that. Another thing we're really proud of is we have a 24/7, 365 on-site lodging team here that's there to help all of our lodging guests throughout the year. And that's something that we're really proud of. Club Solitude programming is fantastic. So we try to make sure there's a lot of great activities for our guests when they're in house with us. We did things like Snoga and geology tours. We had incredible logo wear sales. We actually our retail does phenomenal here. The amount of sales that we generate out of 300 square feet out here is just fantastic. If you haven't swung by our stores to see what we carry, I encourage you to do so, because there's a lot of beautiful items in there. And then our Village liquor store. So many people don't know that Solitude has the only liquor store in the canyon. And it is open, well, the store is open 7 days a week, but we sell alcohol 6 days. And so that's located right in the inn. So our Village store is open daily from 10 to 6. And you can get beer, wine, and hard alcohol there. And that's been a nice, a really important amenity for the resort. So what's not working? We're losing our rental pool to third-party competition. And at the rate we're going to be out of business in that business unit in 5 years. And that's really hard to stomach, because that's going to throw a big wrench into how the resort operates. And our competitors are Airbnb, VRBO, Vacasa, and other. We've had a massive housekeeping shortage, like many, many places in America. And that did not stop for us. The inn is aging. And it needs work. It's dated. I think it's quite charming. It works really well for a certain demographic, and it doesn't work well for others. You know, typically young people come here and they see the inn and they kind of feel like it's grandma and grandpa's inn. So the inn is aging and it needs work. The pool needs to go under a major renovation. So we're pursuing H-2Bs. This is a type of international worker that is an adult. They can be in the US for up to 3 years. They have to work, they have to transition every 6 months. This is a really good pool for us to be pursuing from both the housekeeping and our skilled cook area. We have tried make no mistake, we have tried. We have upped and upped our wages on housekeeping and cooks, and we don't get any applicants. They just don't want to work here. So this is what we believe is the only way we're going to navigate these critical areas. We are doing some interior upgrades to the inn. It's getting some necessary makeup. It's getting some painting. It's getting carpet, new TVs, new terries. We've done some programming in there. You'll see the flow. We've also changed how we do breakfast and how we rent St. Bernard's. And then we're going to add some more retail because we're out of space. We're going to add some retail kiosks into our rental stores, into some of our food and beverage locations. And we're going to do some pop-up events. So when we don't have space indoors, a lot of the season, it's nice outside. And we're going to bring retail to the outside. So we're hoping that helps us up our revenue in that team. Okay, food and beverage. What worked? Well, our lines in the Moonbeam cafeteria were minimal at best, and that was a big change. We did some flow changes. We set up the servery a little bit different. We got really efficient in the kitchen. We expanded all of the resort beach areas. So the outdoor, where you see all of those nice lawn chairs and picnic tables, we got tons more of those and put them out. Last Chance, Moonbeam, Roundhouse. We launched an après scene at Moonbeam. So this is where all our skiers are. One of the challenges you'll see in our vision to build is we're a disconnected base area. The bulk of our skiers and visitors are here, and our resort amenities are over there. And it's not easy to get to. So we launched an après scene here. We did Argent trivia on Saturdays. We had some food, and you're going to see more of that next year. And we're really excited to have that. It's a great way on a busy Saturday or Sunday. Don't hop in the traffic, hang out for a little bit. Families can be here. You have some food, you have some drink, you go home a little bit later. We did a bar. We did pop-up barbecues. We did live music at the Roundhouse. Didn't ever have that bar on the second floor at the Roundhouse. That was phenomenal. And we're really excited to see that is our biggest lodge. It has the most seats. The biggest lodge at Solitude is a Mid-Mountain. So, but it's an awesome facility. We reopened the yurt after being closed for COVID. And once we got it reopened, man, we got an awesome new chef. He's fantastic. And that just sold and filled up really well. We were super impressed by how well it did. We activated lunch in an après scene at St. Bernard's with an incredible menu. It was an Alpine inspired menu. My favorite was the tartiflette. It's a great place to, again, bring kids and hang out. You can open those doors, beautiful view of the mountain. And we eliminated reservations at Honeycomb Grill, which some might not like, but Honeycomb Grill is really, it's more of a burger joint than a fine dining. That's what our guests want. Not that we're not putting out incredible food. We are. We have a credible team. But the bulk of the people who dine at Honeycomb, they want burgers. It's very difficult to do the turns on a table that you need to keep a restaurant profitable when you're bound by two turns. You do a 5 o'clock reservation and a 7 o'clock for burgers. It doesn't work. If you're in the restaurant industry, you will know that, and you will appreciate why we changed that. The first week after we changed it, sales went up 35%.
Sales went up, which is fine, but what was more important was we were getting the guests in the door. We had the customers, and that was really the goal. Can we get the guests in the door? So we were able to accomplish that.
Yep. So it brought in the guests we needed, and it drove the sales up, which we also were really happy about. Okay. Yeah, so what we said was the elimination of the reservations in Honeycomb Grill allowed us to bring in more guests, and we saw a 35% uptick in our sales as a result. So food and beverage, what didn't work? We don't have a bar at Moonbeam, and it makes me crazy. I like beer, but I also like to drink a cocktail or have a glass of wine, and it just kills me that we can't offer that to our guests. However, we have space limitations, and the great state of Utah has some real special liquor laws that make it very challenging. We aren't going to be able to do much with that until we get a new space. We need to renovate some spaces, which means we got to move some people out. So we know We had the cook shortages in many of our key areas. People don't always think of a cafeteria as being a skilled position, but these are the kitchens that drive the monster revenue for food and beverage team. And these do need to be skilled individuals to run a kitchen that's constrained and putting out the amount of product that it needs to put out. H2Bs, that is what we believe our solution is for that. This team had the most impact from Omicron. They had the most J1 international students. And once they arrived here in the US in mid-December, many of you, it just hit and it went wild for about six-ish weeks. So from about New Year's Eve until mid-February, we were whacked. At any time, we had upwards of 30% of our staff members out, either sick with COVID or quarantining because of. We need to own our failures, and we had inconsistent dining and food offerings in the village. And essentially, Jerry and his team would huddle every morning for about 6+ weeks and count the bodies and figure out where they needed to go to make the day work. To do that, we had to consolidate teams, move skilled people around, and it meant we couldn't do some of the offerings. We didn't do a 7-day-a-week lunch. We didn't have multiple dining outlets open for dinner on the weekends. Stonehouse had some real variable schedules. And it was hard. It was hard for us to go through that and not offer, and it was hard to hear your on-point feedback. So next year, Honeycomb Grill will be open nightly for dinner. St. Bernard's will be open daily for breakfast and lunch next year. And then St. Bernard's will be open Thursday through Sundays for dinner. Thursday nights will be a rotating themed meal, which we will allow reservations at. So we think by doing this, have a couple of dining options at night, having a sit-down dining lunch option, which a lot of people want, should really help us overcome some of those village hurdles. Additional 60 hours of food and beverage service next winter is planned. The yurt is going to get a little makeover. It's falling in on itself. It's a phenomenal place with a really cool experience, but it's a good thing it's at night in very dim light. So it needs some work. So we're working on that this summer. We're going to shore it up. We're going to try to, make it a little more functional. And we're really excited for next season. We're going to try to run that as a restaurant and bar. And we're going to do lunches over the weekends and then dinners, the dinners where you book your seat. So we're excited. We're also going to do more pop-ups, live music, programming, events, and an après scene. We really want to have more fun. We know that we're missing out by not having things for people to do in the evenings, by not having things for people to do to stay and not hop into the traffic. So we are working towards creating more of a resort activity and après scene for our guests. Okay, so our mountain sports and activities, which really covers our ski and ride and rentals and Nordic. So we had incredible bookings in this department. Unfortunately, we had more demand than we had capacity. We were fully staffed. We just had more demand than capacity, which is a great problem to have, horrible when you can't solve for it. We also have a growing teams program. So these are our seasonal programs, our competition programs, which have been increasing every year. And a lot of that has to do with just some awesome coaches and some real improvements in how we're managing those programs. We were able to offer some really early morning Super G training, which might not sound like a lot, but it was a big deal to try to coordinate this and make this happen for these teams. The Solitude competition teams, in order to be successful, they need to be able to practice and train here on their home hill. So we're excited to keep working with them on more hill space. We had a record season at the Nordic Center. This doesn't get a shout out enough, and it should. But the other thing you saw on my first slide, right, are hashtags. So we had the longest season in Utah. We have the earliest lifts in Utah, and we had the longest Nordic season in Utah. Solitude had those, and that's pretty awesome. And this business unit had a great season. We were really, really pleased with record revenue, record rentals, records skier visits up there. And it was awesome. It's often been referred to as the hidden gem, and we no longer want it to be hidden. This needs to be out there. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. And we tested some fat biking. We need some more non-ski and ride options. And it was fun. I tested it. A bunch of us up here tested it. It was great. We're going to keep exploring. We're not quite set up to launch a full-blown program. We got to solve for a few things: how we find the trails, how we groom the trails. Got to get fat bikes, which you can't get right now. And then you got to find a place to put them. But it is on our radar. We got a lot of positive feedback about having that as another alternative option. Oops, sorry. So what didn't work? I told you we didn't have enough instructors, so we're adding a lot more. We couldn't accommodate the kids programming because of COVID changes. That hits me right in the heart because I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. I need this programming in order for my life to work. So we are taking back parts of the building and relocating staff members so we can offer these programming. It's a really critical piece of the family unit, is to be able to offer stuff for this ages. And this is really the age when kids take off. You know, some kids ski and ride at 2, 3, 4, but 4, but it's right around age 5 where your kids just go. And so we're really excited to have these young skiers and riders in this programming. We were asked to host another IFSA, so International Federation of, I never get it right. Anyway, they're an organization that does the big mountain ski events. International Free Ski Association. Thank you, Jeff. They want us to host another event. So we're going to host an adult competition here. We're really excited. That event that we held in the spring was awesome, and we'd like to see more of that. I would actually like to see a spring mogul challenge, like just a normal mogul challenge. I think harkening back to the good old 80s and 90s, you remember bump challenges, nothing's manicured or fancy. So we want to try to have some more of this stuff here in our mountain sports group. We are sourcing a new Nordic cat. We know there were some challenges with our groomer at the Nordic Center. It's old. It did a pretty darn good job for most of the season, but we would like to get something a little bit more reliable. So we're working on that. And we're planning for a weekly race league next year. We're trying to get the timing shacks, timing system, and the gates. We'd like to have that regularly, where we can open up for race leagues. Some places have beer leagues, some places have the NASTAR. So we'll do weekly race leagues and then have a NASTAR course open for the general public. And then we're adding some tune and wax machines into Moonbeam. So you probably know at the resort, if you are here as a guest and you want to get a tune or a wax up or something adjusted, you have to schlep your gear to the village because we don't have those machines here. It's a very tight rental shop. So we are going to figure it out and add those machines here so you can leave your gear here for that. So events and resort programming, what worked? We hosted a Netflix movie in December starring Lindsay Lohan. We're going to see if we can't do a viewing party. It's coming out in December. That was really good early season revenue, especially when the snow didn't come in. The downside was they took over our base area at the first big snowstorm, and boy, did we get walloped with feedback. We get it. We know now that these groups tend to scope creep and we need to do a better job, but I'll take that early season revenue day in and day out, and I'll take your negative feedback if I have to, but we got to do that. It's really good revenue. We did a lot of donut days, trying to just create some on the mountain stoke. Really excited for opening day. We did our 100-day season closing day party. We did Snoga behind the inn, outdoor yoga when Omicron was pretty intense. We did ski with a ranger. We have some incredible geology and history tours here of the mountain. We had incredible Nordic nights. We had 400 people show up to our Nordic nights, where we do tiki torches and we light up the Silver Lake Nordic and Snowshoe Center, and people come out and they snowshoe and they Nordic ski. And it was awesome. So we're going to do a bunch more of those next year. The Last Chance Music Series was incredible. It was something in the Pixie Sticks on the last day. I don't remember. What is it called? Pixie and the Party Grass Boys. Man, if you saw that video, it looked like the whole ground was shaking. We want to do more of that. It's fun. Music is fun. Music and dancing is super fun. So we're going to integrate more of that next year. We're going to revamp our Chocolate Lovers Festival. It's our longest annual festival that we have. We think it needs a little bit of an overhaul. We held our first ski mountaineering race with here. It was a sprint race. It was awesome. It was on Main Street. It happened pretty early in the morning, but that's a new sporting event in the Olympics coming up, and we're really excited to be able to host those events here at Solitude. We had pond skimming. I mean, really, if you didn't see the video, feels like maybe we should show it, but we won't. It was a great day. We had an awesome closing day. That is not a thing. I'm not used to that. Oh my goodness, the closing day was wild. But it was a lot of fun, and it was really great to see so many people out and to be skiing in May. And we launched uphill travel. So, we know other resorts have been doing this. We hadn't quite gotten there, but we were really excited that we could offer that once we switched our lift hours in March. And then once we closed the resort, we let it go full bore, and people were really stoked on that. So what didn't work? We were really short-staffed in this department. We're still trying to staff it. If you know of any good candidates, we've got one open. We want to do more public events, like a lot more. We want to have signature public events year round. We want to do more ski and ride competitions because those are great too. I talked to you about the Spring Mogul. We'd love to do a bank slalom course, also super fun. We are going to enhance our uphill travel program next year. So you'll see that launch once there's enough terrain open. That will be available Monday through Thursdays, non-holiday, non-powder day. And we're working on the timing for that. So that'll be available throughout the season. Again, we feel that uphill travel belongs to the locals, and that's why we've targeted those days. And we're going to do some events with some nighttime. We're going to keep Roundhouse Lodge open late, and we're going to let you skin or snowshoe up, have dinner, have a couple whatever, and then ski down at night if you want to do that. And we're really excited to create this different type of on-mountain experience. Oops. So staffing. So we're going to move on. Our most important resource here. We were 93% staffed all winter, even with those challenges. We are 90% staffed for the summer. We moved minimum wage in August to 15, and we're moving it again in June. Effective June 1st, minimum wage will be $17.25 for new employees and $18.75 for returning. We know we need to get on board. With inflation, cost of gas, everything, it's time for us to put the money back into our employees. So we're going to make that change. We know Vail Resorts moved to 20. I don't know that we need to go to 20. I don't know that I can afford to go to 20. But we know that's a road ahead, and we'll keep moving in that direction as we need to. But we're really proud of this change. When I got here in August, it was $12 an hour. So if you think about that, I know my salary hasn't gone up that much. So from August to June, we went from $12 an hour up to 17. That's a huge increase. We did a lot of work on our employee privileges and discounts. So we extended them more generously, and we extended a lot of the discounts, particularly food, to our dependents. It's usually a family affair when you're in this business. And then you have your kids and your partners up here, they need to be able to afford to eat food. So we went ahead and extended those discounts, and it was really well received. We have tried to up our gatherings with parties and meetings and doing holiday gifts and end of season bonuses, again, to create camaraderie and make sure that our team members are taken care of. We are going to be reinvesting next year in more training and equipment allowances and tool allowances for our teams. The biggest 3 areas we receive negative feedback from our team, so full disclosure, right, being transparent with y'all, our frontline teams are frustrated with communication. They don't feel like that information trickles down. They're frustrated with transportation. They don't like sitting in the traffic. They don't like spending $5 a gallon on gas. and they get frustrated with food. They want more, even more affordable food. So we're launching an employee texting platform to communicate with them. We are working with food and beverage on employee only items in each of our cafeterias where they will pay just above cost for those handful of items when they're working on working days. And then transportation. So we are keeping 2 vans for the first time this summer. We're running 2 15-passenger vans. We had 4 15-passenger vans in the winter. We're budgeting for 8. And as I told them, Jeff here is launching a rideshare app that will be available for guests and employees. We're going to incentivize that. And then we are going to work with our friends at Brighton. One of the things I wanted to share was on the carpooling incentives. People want to know, is it working? Well, last year we had 14,000 guests park with us that had 3 or 4 people in their car. 14,000 in the 2021 season. We had 23,000. So from 14,000 to 23,000 people in the 21-22 season had 3 or 4 people in the car. That's a huge jump. It's working. We're not going to give it up. And we aspire to be the home of the 4-day work week. This is pretty new, but I'm going to give it 2 years. In 2 years, this resort will have a dynamic work schedule for all employees. And the goal will be when we're in operations during the season, I do not want my team members working every Saturday and Sunday for 10 months out of the year. That's where we're headed, is to 10 months of lift service. So we are trying to figure out what we need to do. How do we make it happen? What are the threats to the home of the 4-day work week where you work a front end or a back end schedule of the week? So our goal is to have that for the 24-25 season. Summer. Okay, so in operational enhancements, we're going to be open Thursday through Sundays, 10 to 6. We have lift and mountain activities that will be based out of Moonbeam. Not to start the season, but after a couple of weeks, we'll move over here. We are going to launch a new adventure park over by the Sunrise Chairlift. That's going to have a bungee and a climbing wall, and we have a 9-hole base area disc golf course. We are going to keep the bathrooms and snow sports open daily. So from 10 to 6 daily, those bathrooms will be open for canyon traffic. We're going to offer mountain bike lessons. We have a new fleet of mountain bikes that we're getting in. We are going to have a weekly disc golf league, and we are going to keep all of the other regular retail, food and beverage, all the programming that we've done in the past will still stay in line. The new ad will be activating Moonbeam. So general resort maintenance, what are we doing? We're buying 2 cats or groomers. One is a terrain park groomer, and one is hopefully the Nordic. The Nordic might not be new, it might be a used groomer. We're going to upgrade the drive on the Moonbeam lift. We're going to use our new tractor to groom all the trails. So on our trails that we groom, you shouldn't see things poking out. That is not, ideally not normal, especially on the trails that are natural snow, right? Because the depth of snow on those trails is subject to Mother Nature. So we're going to groom all those. And then just one thing, one of the things that we get feedback on is, why don't you do X, Y, and Z for maintaining or thinning your woods or cutting trees? We are bound by a USFS forest and vegetation management plan. So anything we do on their land, which they own quite a bit of, we have to do an approval process. You can't go buck up a down tree. You can't just go cut a tree. You got to go through a lot of checks and balances to get the approvals. So we do hear this from our guests a lot. Why don't you do this? Why don't you take care of that? And that is why. Nate's team works regularly with the Forest Service to say, hey, we'd like to go out and do X, Y, and Z. Can we have your approval? So capital projects for this year. We are working with a design firm out of Park City called IBI on a base area optimization plan. So they're helping us figure out our facilities. What do we need? What do we need to change? What are we going to develop? We are working on connecting the Moonbeam to Village and expanding summer. So we have a paved path that's going to go in from here at a lower grade than the Easy Street. We are going to pave and fix the drainage on the shuttle route that needs work. We're going to put in a beginner mountain bike flow, a downhill and an uphill trail on Easy Street. We're going to open link. We're going to put in a pump track right over here, and we're going to build a skills center down in part of our parking lot. The adventure park, as I told you, will have the wall, the bungee, and the disc golf. So the snowmaking project, I'm going to let Nate talk to what we're doing with snowmaking.
Going back to my seat. So right now, our current capacity for making snow right now, we can do about 1,000 gallons a minute of water. We're looking to up that to about 5,000 gallons a minute. We currently cover how close? So we currently cover about 80 acres. We're looking to expand to about 160 acres. We're looking at a few different diversion points where we collect our water. So we're working with our partners, Salt Lake Public Utilities, Forest Service, the county, town of Brighton, and get a bunch of the stuff processed, permitted this summer with hopes of breaking some ground next summer and really going after it. So, excuse me. Anything else?
Okay. I talked a little bit about the Bison and the yurt already. One of the go backs that Marlon reminded me on when I talked about how we're losing members in our rental management agreements, our condos, we are revising that. We're revising our rental management agreements right now. We're changing the revenue splits between the resort and the owners. We're eliminating comp nights, and we're adding in some additional resort benefits and privileges to try to make those agreements more attractive, to try to win back some of the owners that we've lost, and to try to attract new members to that rental pool. We'll be launching that here probably in the next month or so, or sooner. So what's our 5-year vision to build? I do need to qualify what I'm sharing with you is not approved. Okay? Not approved. And what do I mean by that? What I will tell you is everything I'm sharing with you has an earmark within the Altera Mountain Company. So we've got about $40 million earmarked from capital year 22 through 26. But each year you have to go to the board and get the approval for that year's funding. Now, they're not going to stop something in the middle of a project, but it does mean that we're still in process of seeking the funding each year. The other thing is, not all of these projects have gone through Forest Service approval. They're on our master development plan, which we have to submit to the Forest Service. We have to maintain a master development plan. We amend that every year, but they don't approve or reject a master development plan. They just accept it. What they do approve and reject are projects. So that is important to keep in mind as we go through this, is that these projects that are Forest Service impacted are not approved. I just want you guys to know what we're thinking, right? This is what we're going after. This is what we think Solitude needs to do. So I did just put up here kind of like, we did a SWOT, an end of season, like what worked, what didn't. It does look like this is hard to read, but why are we winning? The Icon Pass, hands down. We are winning because of Icon. It's allowed locals to rediscover Solitude, and it's allowed new people to come here. Our activities in Vibe, we think we're creating a new culture here of having a lot of different offerings. Our employees, I think we can all agree we have top-rate, top-notch employees here that make this place so special. Why are we not working? We've struggled in our communication to employees and guests. I talked about Signature Terrain opening, and I talked about some of the frontline employees. Our lack of village amenities, our disconnected base areas, it's hard to get back and forth. And our lack of summer. There's a lot of traffic in that canyon in the summer. We just haven't given them the best reason to come in our door. And that's just silly. And we've had insufficient employee training. We know we've had some employees who haven't met the mark, haven't been able to put the best quality out there. We need to invest more in training them. What can we become? We want to be a year-round destination. We want year-round business. That's what best, that will allow us to keep year-round employees. That will allow us to generate revenue throughout the year to offset the very expensive infrastructure that we have. We need to get more technologically advanced. The ski industry feels like the dark ages in some ways. Other industries are just blowing us out of the water. And we need to catch up. We need to be more sustainable and DE&I focused. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, those need to become regular themes of what we do here for both our employees and our guests. What's going to get in our way? Parking and transportation. I am sure every canyon resort would say the same. Substandard infrastructure. It's a 1957 resort, and there's some things here that look like they're from 1957. They're not all from that old, but they're old. Climate change, water and snowmaking impacts, and regulations and regulators. It is challenging. It's a very business-friendly state, but the Forest Service has particular rules that need to be followed. The DABC for liquor has particular rules. There's county and town. There's a lot of things here that we have to navigate to get approvals. Okay, so sustainability. First, we need to establish a carbon footprint. I know a lot of people have done this, but we haven't. So we're in the process of doing that right now. It's hard to say we can do anything without knowing what our baseline is. We need to partner with the local university and colleges. We should have them up here to help us work on some sustainability projects. They're fantastic. We're not using them. We need to diversify our waste streams. You'll see that next year in our food and beverage cafeterias. We need liquid waste separated from organic waste, separated from recycling, separated from trash. We need an on-resort water conservation plan. We think we can do better. We need to do better. All of us need to do better in conserving water in Utah. We need to solve for our employee and guest transportation issues. We need more van pools, we need the carpooling, and we need more bus ridership. We need that rideshare app, Jeff. Okay. We want to purchase some more blue sky credits if there's available. We think we need to do a better job at doing offsets. We want on-resort EV charging to support the uptick in electric vehicles. And we need to, I already said that one. So diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need to develop meaningful relationships with some local groups here. There's a lot of great local groups here in the Valley, and Solitude needs to start working with them. We need to implement better recruiting, interviewing, and hiring best management practices. It is very difficult to improve underrepresented groups when they don't apply. So we have to go to the Valley. We have to go out there. We have to do a better job at removing inherent bias and creating pipelines for these underrepresented groups to want to come and work here. We're fortunate that we're close to an urban area. Many, many mountain resorts across America are so far removed from areas where they have a chance to bring in more underrepresented. We're 20 minutes and we're not doing a great job at it. We need to communicate more. We need to talk about it. You know, you want to improve environmental issues, you got to talk about them. The same with DE&I, we got to do a better job. And that starts with me. We need to celebrate our local events and commemorations. We just participated in the Pride 5K walk. Marlin organized a group. It's Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We need to do a better job at celebrating these commemorations, creating ways for those groups to participate here and learn more. We want better representation, and we need to hold our employees and guests accountable when you get out of line. When we don't treat people the way they need to be treated. We saw some of that with our foreign workers. Our international students took some very inappropriate comments and behavior from guests last year. I'm not going to tolerate that. That much I can assure you. If it comes to me and we find the facts, we will take action. Oop. So lifts. What are we doing with lifts? Here's what I know. We're doing Eagle. 2023, same. I don't want a 6-pack. I don't want an 8-pack. We're going with the 4, the same. the high-speed quad detach, okay? That's gonna happen. Then after that, many of you want Sunrise. I'm not with you yet. I actually really like Sunrise just the way it is. Link is not okay. The way in which we manage our beginner area does not work for me. It doesn't work for Dan. It doesn't work for our guests. We're losing out, and it's just not a great experience. So that's the next lift we're gonna go after. We gotta figure out a couple of things first, because I don't know what we wanna put in there. I don't know if we replace it with a triple or a quad or maybe carpets. Maybe we move the whole thing to the other side. Who knows? So that needs some work. Okay, so the next capital year, which will start next August. August of 2023 is the next capital year. So what are we planning for? Snowmaking continues. This is gonna take a few years to do what we need to do. The terrain park build out will begin in earnest. We're gonna launch this year with some small things, but we need snowmaking as well to go with terrain parks. So that will launch in earnest in the following year. We need more non-ski and ride activities. So we're thinking of things like tubing, other different activities. We know some people look at tubing and you cringe. Tubing's a cash cow. It just is. And if we can figure out the right place to put it, because you can't put it on really steep terrain, we think it'll be a great nighttime offering. A really nice nighttime offering to create more things to do here after hours. We're gonna put music and PA systems in all the lodges. We are gonna continue to add on to the adventure park. We want more pieces out there in the Sunrise Last Chance Flats. We are gonna get a resort mobile stage so we can start hosting concerts. How fun would it be to have a mobile stage right out here and you all sit up the trail and it's awesome. Could do the same thing on Main Street. We wanna have really fun events here. We need to fix the road to Roundhouse. And when we activate summer over here, which will be phase 1 Gravity Logic Mountain Bike Park, this Moonbeam lift will come into the fleet. This will go to 7 days, but we will lose our signature wedding venue. And we got to solve for that. So we got to find something else on resort for another wedding venue. The snow sports sprung structure. So we are busting at the seams in the snow sports building. And what we would like to do is move them to a temporary sprung structure up towards Last Chance in the helicopter landing zone kind of flats area. And then up there, there's some really good terrain where we could marry in some beginner, some more magic carpets and some more beginner terrain. If we pull that together, then we'll look at what we need for Link to go with that. The next year, CY24, we are looking at beginning a real in earnest, the Valley Parking and Transit Transit Center project. So Valley Parking means we want to own parking in the valley where we can put employees, maybe guests, hook up with UTA, or maybe we have to run figure out something else. And we want to get with the right stakeholders to get the transit, the bus, to the road out of our parking lot. Terrain park and the beginner terrain area in Sunrise, lack of beginner terrain is a big issue here. We have about 8% green terrain. That's a challenge. That's a huge challenge. So we think the Sunrise area has some really good grade. That is all Forest Service over there, so we'll have to work with them, and we'll continue to build out the terrain park. Night. Many resorts in Utah, our neighbor for one, has proven that night moves the needle. When you are capacity constrained, like we are, being able to offer more skiing and riding. The 8 a.m. lifts showed that. So we'd like to figure out what can we do with nighttime options. Is it the Nordic Center? Is it a tubing area? Is it the terrain park? Is it the front side of Solitude where it used to be? Phase 2 Gravity Logic. So this is, again, continuing to build out. These are machine built flow trails for our mountain bike park. We'll go. And then we will demo this building. The snow sports building will get taken out and rebuilt. What we'd like to do is move rentals, snow side. Wouldn't it be nice to have rentals right at grade? We would like to have more retail. We would also like to have a bar, like a proper bar. So that's what we're planning in 24. Moonbeam is another big pinch point for us with our current layout. In 25, we need to continue work on the valley parking and the canyon transit solutions. That's where I talked about that new Moonbeam Transit Center. We would like an aerial adventure course or tree top canopy course. Those are really fun. We've got a couple of locations in mind, and some of that is going to depend on some other changes happening. So it's hard to know exactly where in the base area that will be right now. The phase 3 gravity logic will occur. So now the goal is to have a really nice mountain biking trails from Moonbeam through Link all the way to Sunrise. So you have a full park with 3 lifts. The Last Chance Lodge, we are out of admin space, and the Last Chance Lodge is busting at the seams as well. Our patrol is in there, our clinic, and our kitchens that do the banquets are also busting at the seams. We think that's a great location to add a wing on, expand out the retail, and then maybe try to put our admin building there. The Cary Mills Inspo is one of we have 2 private lots at Solitude. The Cary Mills Inspo lot, we have about 10 acres, and then we own the inn and the admin. There's an admin parcel behind the inn that's undeveloped. We're going to develop Cary Mills. We don't know exactly what we want to do. We think it's probably going to be residential with maybe a private club. That's what we're thinking right now. We don't know. It's too soon in the design process to know exactly what's the right fit, but we will develop it. CY26, again, transit center, that's going to take some time. It's going to take, we think, those few years to figure it out. The Roundhouse Powderhorn Gondola. There you go. You heard it here. We want a gondola. We need a gondola. This canyon needs a gondola to get people up to the peaks. We need a gondola to get our wedding guests to Roundhouse. So we think that the gondola starts here in Moonbeam, it stops at Roundhouse, and it goes to the Powderhorn Peak. So we're gonna explore that. The final phase of gravity logic, which is pretty small at this point, it's kind of just some final connections will happen. And then this will be a big one, and particularly to owners. We do feel we want to demolish the inn and rebuild, and we will utilize the admin parcel for that. So that'll hopefully, the goal is a new hotel, new conference center, new pool, new restaurants. That will hopefully kick off in this year. And we have a lot of good support from Altera Mountain Company on that. They see great potential here with our inn. While it's very nice, it's not big enough, and it doesn't allow us to do the type of business we want to do. That will be a big impact once that project kicks off to the homeowners, because that means that whole area will be under construction. I don't know how long it will take, but I want that to be out there for people to think about and know that that is going to come. So let's talk about capacity, because this comes up a lot. And I hear things like, Solitude has lost its soul. I hear that regularly. Solitude has lost its roots. Solitude has sold out. Those are the common. I call them the icon haters. I know you're not. You're really the Solitude lovers, right? You're the people who've been here for a long time, and you've seen Solitude undergo major change. It is no longer the resort where you pull in from your car and you hop right on the lift. And it's a good darn thing it's not that resort, because we wouldn't be here, and your property values would be in the tank. So I like to think about the fact that Solitude is not an inanimate object. The mountain is one thing. The resort is made up of people. And in fact, Solitude was sold. So in terms of selling out, it was sold. The DeSeal horse, who owned it for 40 years, sold to Deer Valley. Deer Valley turned around and sold it to Altera Mountain Company. Altera Mountain Company, our parent company, owns this resort. And this resort is run by people. It starts with me, it goes to this group of people, it goes to our team. So when people say Solitude has lost its soul. Solitude has lost its compass. Solitude is sold out. Please know that sentiment doesn't add value. It just doesn't. Solitude is owned by a company and run by people who care very much about it, who love it as much as you do, and who want it to be successful and prosperous and sustainable. How we get from where we are to where we're headed, I have given you some roadmaps. But we are moving towards growth. Many people get frustrated with how busy, and Solitude's visitation has grown, but the ski industry's growth over the last 30 plus years has been 1%. The growth in our industry has gone at a rate of many decades at 1%. I know some of you in this room are very savvy finance people. That is terrible growth. That is terrible growth for an industry. That being said, I don't discredit the fact that, sorry, how do I get back? Okay, that we have some challenges. So Icon Pass is popular and it's growing. How are we gonna handle this? Many of you point out being overrun. Our biggest constraint is parking, okay? We have a comfortable carrying capacity of around 4,600 people. We have a parking capacity of around 3,500. On the days this season that we exceeded our comfortable carrying capacity, the lift lines were less than 10 minutes. There were seats in every lodge. There were only lines at the bathroom on the bottom of Moonbeam because people don't know to go to the other building. We still have capacity here. We can do 16,000 people per is our uphill lift capacity. We have room for growth in our mountain, in our business. We need to look at the summer. We need to look at the shoulder seasons, but we can still do more skier visits. And we can do more skier visits when we solve for public transportation, carpooling, and parking, which I have showed you is such a major theme. So I do want to bring that up because it is something that I hear, and it's mostly from long timers who are frustrated that the experience is not what it used to be. And I can't undo that. I can't put that genie back in the bottle. And quite honestly, you don't want that genie back in the bottle. You don't. You may think you do, but the price of a pass that you would have to pay, and we would never be able to afford to pay our people $17.25 an hour or more. It wouldn't happen. We, on-slope skier rider density. This is another one that comes up. I can only share with you the injury stats, right? Where we are doing better than the national average. As far as the skier rider density on the trails, we don't have good measures for that. What I can tell you is I ski a lot, and I generally ski the front side because it's closest to my office and it's where I can buzz a few hot laps and get some fresh air. And I can't think of a single time. There's a few pinch points. Right here is one of them. Right at the top from Same Street to Little Dolly's. I don't like it. It's on our radar. We know we need to look at that. But outside of that, I can't think of a single place on this resort where it seems too crowded. I don't. Are there some interesting cross sections? There are. Yep, you know, when you're trying to straight line it to Roundhouse and you're looking up at Sunshine. I mean, I'm doing this the whole time, right? Yeah, sometimes that's a little wonky, but our trails here are so wide and so spacious. So I don't subscribe to the skier rider density issue. Now that may change, especially if we see upticks in injuries. The lack of beginner terrain is absolutely on my mind. I told you I have little kids. The benefit to that is I spend a lot of time in the beginner area, in the magic carpet and on Link. And I'm experiencing these challenges that many of our families and new skiers and riders are also experiencing. And that is an area of focus for us. So that went longer than I thought, and I apologize. But I would like to open it up for questions. We only have one mic. So the way it's going to work is you can ask a question, and then I'll repeat it into the mic, and then we will answer it for you. Oh, we lost that. Okay. Come on. Go ahead. Okay, so for those of you online, the question had to do about with the allocation from Alterra of 40 million for our 5-year plan and how that seems inequitable compared to the other resorts. Well, the short answer is we make the least amount of EBITDA in the Alterra Mountain family. So that is an important part of the process, right? Is the resorts that are getting major investments right now are also the resorts that make up more than half. Those 5 resorts that are getting a lot of that money, they make up more than half of Alterra Mountain Company's revenue stream. So there is somewhat of what is just a business decision, which is when you're running a business and you see where your major profit centers are, you do have to reinvest in those because they're your major profit centers. That is one part of it. The other part is quite honestly, outside of lifts, we still are trying to figure out what we need. And a lot of that is Solitude has changed so quickly. We could get funding sooner, but oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. We could get funding sooner, but we haven't figured out our buildings either. And I don't want to rush it. I really think we got to get it right. We need to look at the data. We need to figure out what our needs are based on our growth plan and then go to the ask. I think 40 million is a fair investment right now, but we will see more as we figure out what we want. So when we figure out so the 40 million doesn't include those major buildings. Doesn't. Or Eagle. It doesn't include the lifts. It includes that smaller ancillary stuff. So once we figure out what we need at Cary Mills, once we figure out what does the inn look like, once we figure out, well, what lift, after we do Eagle, I want to look at Link, then we're going to be going back to these other big ticket items. But we haven't asked, and that's on us, on me, because again, I feel like we're still in this process of like, you know, it feels like we've been whiplashed here, right? By how quickly things have changed. And I personally have pumped the brakes because I think we need the time to figure out what it is Solitude needs so we can get it right, we get the money we need, and we build the right things for us as we grow. Does that help? Maybe it doesn't answer what you want, but %100% incorrect. It's like how much of our revenue for Icon sale pass? Yeah. 75% of the money that we get right now to run our resorts, to do capital, to do wage increases is from Icon. We do get a very fair reallocation. It is true we're an unlimited Icon. I'm okay with that. I know some of you are not, but I am. For the reasons I've shared, we have capacity to grow. That will change. We are going to see a point likely, I think it's in 3 to 5 years, where we'll have to think about, do we need to be limited? Do we need to have reservation parking? But I have no interest in pursuing those limiting factors until I see this resort hum at the capacity that I know it has. Okay, anybody else? Anything in the chat? Where?
I have
Okay.
a question, Amber.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's a peak day for you guys for numbers? You doing 4,500, 5,000, you breaking 6?
We don't share that information.
What are your annual skier visits?
We don't share that information. We're a privately held company.
What do you want to see it get to?
I also don't share that information.
Well,
We
if
want to
your
see it
uphill number
grow.
per hour is
20%. I want to see
16,000.
visits grow by 20% next year.
In 1 year, you want to see a 20% increase in visitation.
Correct.
How are you going to do
But
that?
remember, this is going to be a longer season. We're going to go longer. We're going to open hopefully mid-November. We're going to go till mid-May, weather depending. And we're going to have 8 a.m. daily lifts through the meat of our season. So when we say an increase in skier visit, that comes with more days of operation and a 15% increase in lift hours.
Yeah, you're hoping you can get an origin scan at different points in the day because you're opening earlier and later. But you know, just like everybody else, about the precipitous drop in participation after it gets warm in the valley, right? We're not going to make up a ton of visitation in end of April and May.
Yes, we will.
I would love to see that. I would love to see Jeff market the hell out of that and get more visitation there. Also, Marlene, good to see you. I love you.
Thanks. It's Digi Dave, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you've thrown some real nice shout outs to us. Thank you.
Well, you guys are doing it right, and this is part of what makes this great. I
Okay.
love seeing it, Amber.
Come ski Solitude. Love
Well,
to take some runs with you.
I've got one of those things, so yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I know. All the Icon Pass haters have the Icon Pass.
It's because it's the only thing you can buy.
I did see somebody post, does Solitude have water rights or agreements for snowmaking? We have 2 existing water contracts with the city of Salt Lake, neither of which we are maximizing. The goal is to first figure out how we can maximize our existing contracts, provided we can, the flow of water works, and then we will determine whether or not we need to go back to the city to ask for more water, but we're not there yet. Yep. We'll take it under consideration. Mhm.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sorry, the question was why not run Eagle 8 a.m. on weekends as well? And you know, I think we're so new in the 8 a.m. lifts, and it is a big lift on the team to get here early to get the resort ready. There's also mitigation work that goes into getting certain parts. I like what you're thinking. I don't think it's something we're going to bite off for this coming season, but I do think when we get a new lift, I would like to see Eagle open 8 a.m. daily as well. Yep. No, not an Eagle. The question was a mid station on Eagle Lift, and there is no plans for that. There was a question in the chat on PCMR minimum wages. I talked about minimum wages and where we're at, and I don't really feel the need to talk about Vail. That's a great, so the question was last day of skiing with UTA. We would very much like UTA to extend their season. And then we have a meeting with Brighton and UTA. We haven't set the date, but that is going to be part of the conversation, as we would like to see the buses, start earlier and run longer. And maybe we'll have to figure out what the costs are associated with that. Yeah. Are there any more in the chat that you guys see?
Can I ask a question about the parking pass?
Sure.
Okay. So, I have a family of 4, and taking kids on a bus is difficult to say the least. We bring extra gear as conditions change and so on and so forth. But, families bringing kids being difficult on the bus, we're bringing the future of the sport, you could say, to the mountain. would there potentially be some consideration on your part to offer a free or discounted parking pass for those of us that, buy like a couple of team passes, or a kid and a team passes? I mean, I get that the parking pass is not going away. I totally understand. But for families, maybe there's consideration.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have not explored that. It is not something that the team has brought up as something to need to look into. We think the midweek parking pass is a great offer. We are keen to look at, it won't affect the parking passes per se, but we are keen to look at our day pricing. We think we might have some bandwidth to incentivize folks who come up and will agree to leave by 10 a.m. Maybe we can incentivize them, as well as thinking that we probably need to do a better job on peak pricing for day tickets. But as far as any other deals on the parking pass, we have nothing slated, but we'll take your feedback into consideration. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
So just a question on terrain expansion.
Okay, hold on. We're going to answer a question in the chat about employees parking at the bottom of the canyon. I don't believe there's any limitations on who can park there. Just it's a small lot. It just fills up super fast. Yeah, and we pay for all of the Solitude pass holders, the employees, and the Icon pass holders, and the lot maintenance. Super. What's wrong with Eagle? So Eagle, just the parts are no longer, they're very difficult to service. That lift is just so old that finding replacement parts are, they're getting to be next to impossible. So we've got to replace it, or we could be in some we could have some great uphill travel off of Eagle. Well, I don't want that. I like chairlifts a lot. But yeah, we got to get that replaced quick, fast. Okay, sorry, I interrupted somebody who had a question.
Oh, yeah. Well, first, thank you so much for having this town hall. I mean, this is just leagues above the transparency offered at any other resort, and we really appreciate that. Yeah, so I know you mentioned how you really want to kind of push visitor, numbers up. You said like 20% next year, and obviously some of that is coming from kind of underutilized periods in the week. But I guess, is there any thought as to terrain expansion? I know that there was some proposal like a decade ago that got shot down by the Forest Service, but especially as you're expecting visitation numbers to increase dramatically, whether there's any plan to kind of offset that skier density with increased terrain.
Not at the moment. I think that some of you have heard, I feel that we need to maximize what we have. And I don't think we are maximizing what we have. So I would like to see how the next couple of years shake out with pass sales and some of the improvements we're making. And I think if we were to explore terrain expansion, which I did talk about in my 5-year, it would be beginner terrain. We need more beginner terrain. I do not need more double black. We need more beginner terrain, and we think the Sunrise Pod area has the best options for that. So that is something we will consider in a couple of years, working with the Forest Service to see what's available. There are a lot of questions in the chat that I'm not sure. There was a question on the SRL, the rental management agreement. I think the best bet for you on that question is to reach out directly to Marlon and Nick. And we are planning to launch that new agreement in the next couple weeks, and it will highlight the new owner splits on that. Any other questions? Yep, go ahead. Yeah, we're gonna. Yes. So there's 220 condos in the village. There's a couple things happening. Number one, the new owners in the Solitude Village area are local Utahns who have no interest in renting their places. They want them for themselves and their family and friends. So we're seeing more of that. The second is, yeah, we've been left behind, I would say, somewhat self-inflicted. I think that certain parts of the ski industry are archaic, and this is one of them. We've let this rental agreement, it's been in place probably for 10 years. These are the types of things that we got to get on. We got to get ahead of, and we got to be dynamic and fluid. And so we need to be more competitive to show why our services are superior and what we can offer to our owners instead of Airbnb and VRBO and Vacasa and others. So we'll see. Our goal is to grow 10 new units this year and hopefully another 10 next year. It varies. It varies so much by unit and by season. Occupancy rate? What's that? Yeah, we don't have that data with us today. Yeah, but we do plan to show the owners who are interested in talking with us what they can expect in any typical year for a revenue stream for them if they want to rent with us. Okay.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question had to do with understanding more of the rental manager agreements, which apply to our condo units and private homes in the village, and why we were losing people to owners to third-party competitors.
Thanks.
Hi, I just have a thought.
The comment was that one of the owners has had a good experience renting their unit with us for 5 weeks out of the year. 4 or 5 years. Go ahead.
I have a little thought. I've been told that you have more weddings this summer than ever. Like somebody said 50 weddings or more.
We have 55 private events this summer, which is not more than last summer. Last summer was our record year, and it was the COVID bounce back year. I would like more weddings. So if you know anybody.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say you were talking about problems with guests. And we find that when there are weddings, the noise level is incredible for, owners that happen to be up here in the summer up there. I'm not there now. And, you were talking about ways to possibly control guest behavior, and weddings is probably the worst guest behavior in the evenings, in the nighttime. Just a thought.
Yeah. Thank you for the feedback. We are bound by the town of Brighton's noise ordinance, which is 10 p.m.
That doesn't.
Dave, yeah, well, Dave, do you still have a comment? Your hand is up.
Yeah, Amber, I have one. The carpooling app, are you guys developing that with Altera, or is this something I can help with?
You should call Jeff.
We got it covered, Dave.
Jeff, call me this week. It's sitting in AWS and we've been updating it. Patrick and I met last week.
I'll pay you.
Are there any initiatives to do more for the animals? We have interest in doing more backcountry excursions, but we're not set up for that, and we haven't explored what that business unit would look like. Employee parking, permit parking on the road by the admin. So the parking along the road to the admin building is employee, it's resort parking. We own it, and that's where our admin employees, that's where I park. So one thing on roadside parking, because this comes up a lot, we don't own the road, and we don't own the right of the way on the road. The road is owned by the Forest Service. The UDOT has a easement We cannot, without an approval, which we have put out there, we can't manage it. It's not our land to manage. We have offered to the town of Brighton, to the Forest Service, that if they would like us to manage between entry 2 down to the curve, we will take that on. And we will manage it, and we will charge for it on weekends and holidays. But it's not our land to do so. If that we do work closely with UDOT and the town of Brighton, we're banned parking on the north side of the road. You know, that whole area does allow access for dispersed recreation, which is really important to the backcountry community, the snowshoers, the hikers. So that comment comes up a lot about us, how challenging roadside parking is. And I just want to be sure that people know that is not our land. Is there, don't tell the people. More bathrooms? No, we got bathrooms for right now. We're good. We just need people to go to the right ones, not wait in line. Is there the Giles Flat? I'm not familiar with what that says. To where the private house is? That's also not our land. The Giles Flat is a private road. There is a possibility to reroute the shuttle behind Creekside, but that's also private land. I don't own that land. I'd like to own it, but they got to sell it. Anything else? Well, I don't know. I hope that you feel like you've learned something and you hear what we're trying to do and what our vision is. I know that not everything we're doing is popular, but we're not in the business of winning a popularity contest. We're in the business of trying to do the right thing for Solitude, for the majority of our guests, for the majority of our employees, to stay sustainable, to continue to develop thoughtfully and grow thoughtfully. And so hopefully, you know, if you have more questions or comments, you're welcome to reach out to me directly. You can shoot them through email, and I'm happy to speak with you. But otherwise, I think that we will probably do an update at our homeowners weekend in August, just kind of another summer update. We will be relaunching Amber's updates on the blog. That will come out next week. It'll be monthly in the summer. So I'll kind of give you a status on the projects and whatnot. And just remember that 5-year vision is not approved. Just want to make sure. Don't go back and be like, God, Solitude's getting the gondola. Solitude would like a gondola, but you know, we have to work with our Forest Service, public utilities, all of these right agencies to seek the right approvals and then the funding to do those types of things. So I thank you. Do you guys have anything up here?
When is the gondola going?
Anything else? Well, I really thank my team for being here and for the employees, and thank you all for coming.